We are back at BigLeaguePolitics.com, broadcasting to you, as always, from a secure location. Our guest today is a longtime political advisor to the President of the United States, and he has some big news for us. Roger Stone, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me. It's, with my own radio show at Infowars.com being seriously censored, the opportunity to come on forums like this is really important and useful, so I appreciate the invitation.
Well, you are part of history now, Roger, and we want you to continue to be part of history, and we don't want to see you get locked up in Guantanamo Bay by Robert Mueller. Can you give us the latest on what's going on in that case?
Yes. Today, there is, of course, no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any proof or evidence whatsoever that I knew about the theft and publication of John Podesta's emails in advance, or any other crime in connection with the 2016 election. Remember that Julian Assange announced on June of 2016 that he had a substantial amount of material on Hillary Clinton and that he would publish it. He repeated this in a tweet that I think was put out by WikiLeaks on July 21st, and then repeated it again on August 24th on Fox. I had a source, a tipster, the New York progressive radio show host, Randy Credico, who pointed out the significance of this material and told me it would come in October. Now, to be clear, Credico never claimed to know the source or the content, only that it was, as he put it, a bombshell, devastating, political dynamite, would change the race, would end Hillary's campaign. So I took what was a tip, and then I began to follow WikiLeaks and set a Google News alert for Julian Assange, follow the WikiLeaks Twitter feed, and hype as much as possible the coming revelations. The purpose of doing this was not to aggrandize myself or to suck up to the Trump campaign. Do you really think I care about what, say, Corey Lewandowski thinks of me? My goal was to win the election and to focus as much voter and media attention on those disclosures as possible. Now, Mr. Credico, ultimately, I was required to turn over his name to the House Intelligence Committee. I sought to protect him because, frankly, I thought there would be professional reprisals against him in the progressive community. He was a Sanders supporter. He was later a Jill Stein supporter. But trust me, he shared my disdain and opposition to the Clintons, mostly over the 1994 crime bill, which required, mandatory incarceration for first-time nonviolent crimes like the possession of marijuana, something that Credico and I agreed on. In any event, when I divulged his name to the House committee, Mr. Credico denied that he was my source and tried to say that since he didn't interview Julian Assange until late August, he could not have been my source in late July. Last week, I released a series of text messages that proved not only was he my source, he was the one I spoke to when I said I had communicated with Assange through a back channel, and he reveals that his source was not Assange himself, meaning his argument about Assange's appearance on his radio show in August was irrelevant. He exposed a woman lawyer for WikiLeaks as his source. Now, he hasn't done anything illegal either, other than the fact that I believe he may have lied about these things when interviewed by the FBI or before Mr. Mueller's grand jury. But I think I have proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything I said to the House committee regarding Mr. Credico being my source was accurate, and that I received nothing from him or from WikiLeaks or from Julian Assange or from Guccifer 2.0 or for Dr. Jerry Corsi or from Santa Claus for that matter. I had no advance notice of the source or content of the October WikiLeaks disclosures, only that they would be devastating. P.S. They were.
Yes. That is fantastic. We actually, we have those texts between you and Randy Credico up on the site. I think that it does prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are innocent of Russian collusion and that there was no Russian collusion. You had that one Fusion GPS setup meeting with Don Jr. in Trump Tower. Aside from that, there was no Russian influence whatsoever in the campaign that I can see. I want you to talk about Jerry Corsi, because apparently he's talking to Mueller right now. Is that right?
That is my understanding. Pardon me if I take a Marco Rubio moment.
Well, at least you're about winning elections. I like that. Many Republicans are not about winning elections.
So I'm unaware of whether there are plea bargain negotiations with Jerry Corsi or not. But based on numerous reports in ABC, NBC, the Washington Examiner, and the Daily Caller, it appears to me that the special counsel wants Mr. Corsi to say things that are not true. He is quoted as saying, "My crime is not telling them what they want to hear." He has described his interrogation as being like being at the hands of the KGB or the North Koreans. He's 72 years old. He's not in good health, but this I can definitively tell you. In the middle of August, I was very upset with the fact that the Clinton operatives were making a very successful run at attacking Paul Manafort's Eastern European business activities in the mainstream media. This was an effort to dislodge Manafort from the campaign because they knew he was substantially more capable than, say, I don't know, Corey Lewandowski. So I was grousing about this to Corsi, who pointed out to me that the Podesta brothers, John and Tony, had their own lucrative business dealings in Russia with the oligarchs around Vladimir Putin, that Peter Schweitzer had written a terrific piece called From Russia with Money in early August. He had written another piece in mid-August exposing the fact that Tony Podesta represented the same Ukrainian political party as Paul Manafort. And Corsi pointed out to me where I could find online from public sources the fact that the Podesta brothers were in gas, they were in banking, and they were in uranium. That was available not only in the Panama Papers, published in April of 2016, but in some other conservative think tank papers. I looked at the material. It was compelling. That is what motivated my famous tweet in which I said, "The Podesta's time in the barrel will come." Then I asked Jerry Corsi if he would do a roundup memo for me of the material I had just scanned quickly, and he agreed, sending me a memo approximately a week later. Everything in that memo is publicly available. The purpose of the memo was to make it their time in the barrel, to give it to mainstream media reporters. But guess what, Patrick? It's incredible. No mainstream media reporters seem to be interested in the business dealings of the Podestas and their closeness to the Russians. They were too busy covering the Manafort story. That is the sequence of events that is reflected in my opening statement before the House Intelligence Committee, which is under oath and is very precise. That is the sequence of events as outlined by Dr. Corsi in a piece he wrote for InfoWars, because this idea that my reference to the Podestas, in which the word "the" is always excised from the tweet by the mainstream media, CNN, NBC, virtually everybody, in order to give it a meaning it didn't have. But today, the Washington Post took the cake. They wrote, Stone wrote that it would be his time in the barrel. I never used the word his either, because my tweet was not a reference to John Podesta. Let me say it again for the record. I had no knowledge that anyone had stolen John Podesta's emails, if they were allegedly stolen, or that anyone was going to publish them. Now, if Jerry Corsi knew that, he's a brilliant researcher, but he did not tell me. And I read where he told ABC and I think NBC that he never had any meeting or communication or back and forth with Assange. All I know is he never told me that. So reading between the lines, I suspect that perhaps poor Dr. Corsi is being squeezed over the fact that he refuses to bear false witness against me. And in all honesty, I think that I am a target for the simple reason that I supported Donald Trump. that I began urging him to run for president as early as 1988, again in 2000, again in 2012, successfully in 2016. And I think most people know if they have any intention of trying to take out Donald J. Trump, they're going to have to come through me first. And that's why I think I have been targeted.
Well, I think so, too. And I think if I was Robert Mueller, that would be the entire case right there. We've just heard the whole story. I think that's case closed. What do you think is going to be the end result of Robert Mueller? This guy was running a tyranny at the FBI for, what, like 15 years. Is he going to go down in history with this fake case because Hillary and Podesta told him to do the Russia thing?
Look, I think it remains to be seen. If the decision regarding Roger Stone is made on the basis of evidence and facts and the truth, then they won't try it. But as it was reported at Big League Politics, the woman in charge of the potential prosecution of yours truly is a woman named Jeannie Rhee, who is a Yale-trained lawyer who previously worked at Wilmer Hale and represented the Clinton Foundation, presumably represented them on matters pertaining to the missing emails, a matter in which I am being investigated, gave Hillary Clinton $5,400 for her political campaign. So let me get this straight. The left is arguing that Matthew Whitaker should recuse himself from oversight of the Mueller probe because of his previous Republican political activities, but it's perfectly all right for Hillary Clinton's personal legal attack dog to delve into every single aspect of my private life, my personal life, my family life, my business life, my social life, my private life. It is really extraordinary, the double standard hypocrisy of the left.
Now, Roger, isn't it true that Jeannie Rhee's husband actually took her last name?
I read that in a WikiLeaks, or pardon me, a Wikipedia biography of him. He also formerly worked for Senator Dan Durbin, who of course was one of the most virulent attackers of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. No, this is a political contract, and there's still no evidence that I have violated the law. I'm hopeful that they will make a decision based on the facts. Randy Credico, I think, who actually once sent me a text message saying that he was so heavily medicated in 2016 he can't remember anything that happened that year, is not a very reliable witness. And I think the text messages published by Big League Politics demolish him as a witness. Now, let's see what Mr. Corsi has to say. He's a 72-year-old man who's written 20 books, 10 New York Times bestsellers. I don't agree with all of his politics, by the way. I do think that Americans landed on the moon. He does not. He thinks that was staged. I do think Barack Obama was born in the United States. He thinks that he was not. The Honolulu birth notice in the newspaper pretty much convinced me. But that said, you know, I think it's clear that he is under relentless pressure.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, actually, you know, I'm writing a story tonight about how Robert Mueller is actually under investigation by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, which is the Tennessee form of the FBI, for allegedly framing a right-wing man on a gun charge. It seems like that case, we have some evidence that Jerry Corsi knew about that case in advance, so possibly Robert Mueller was targeting him. What do you think is going to happen with Jerry Corsi? Is he going to be indicted?
I honestly don't know. I'm not privy to that information, nor have I heard anything about these alleged plea bargains. I have read that he said that he did know that somebody had obtained Podesta's emails, but then I read that in NBC, so who knows if it's actually true.
Right.
But I do know this. If he did know that, he never mentioned it to me, and there is no evidence to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. So if you are not going to get sent off by Robert Mueller and Jeannie Rhee, we're going to go into 2020, but there are some, you know, some big problems going on. Laura Loomer, for instance, was just banned from Twitter. You know, you have big-time Silicon Valley tech censorship. You have really both parties working against the president. What are his chances in 2020? Because he's going to need you.
It boils down to one question and one question only. Access to a free, open, vibrant, and robust internet was the key to Donald Trump's reelection. 2016 was the first year that the mainstream media, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, and now to some degree Fox, lost their stranglehold monopoly on political discourse in this country. It democratized communications in a way that Donald Trump had forums like this very one, like Big League, like Breitbart, like Daily Caller, like InfoWars, where alternative information could be reported and consumed. Frankly, had we had a level playing field in the recent congressional elections, we might not have lost the House. The fact that Facebook would allow Democrats to advertise, conduct paid advertising while rejecting advertisements for Republicans is a violation of the federal election law. National Republican Congressional Committee, where were you? Sleeping is the answer. So the president has said the right things about internet censorship. Those who don't like Alex Jones and therefore don't rise to his defense don't recognize that if he is censored today, it will be you tomorrow. Who will be next? Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh. These are all patriots that I admire. But they should realize it is a slippery slope. And frankly, the president, if he wants to be reelected, to protect his own reform agenda, to protect his ability to get reelected, to protect his legacy as president, needs to direct his Justice Department to bring antitrust actions against the Silicon giants. They are engaged in racketeering. They are colluding together in an unfair and illegal way in the marketplace. It would seem to you that the First Amendment arguments would be salient, but the courts so far have rejected them. So let's get to the core of it. They're acting like gangsters, and they're snuffing out our rights to be heard. If this continues to progress, if they continue to deplatform conservatives on Facebook, on Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube, if they continue, particularly the shadow banning. I was speaking to my friend St. John Hunt today. He's the son of E. Howard Hunt. He's an incredible man. He's a songwriter, musician, writer, researcher, author, kind of a troubadour, a Renaissance man. And his Twitter feed has the most obvious shadow banning I have ever seen. He puts out interesting tweets. He has thousands, theoretically, of followers, but no one retweets and no one appreciates his work. No, I'm sorry, it can't work that way. I can't have 185 followers at the Stone Cold Truth and have 3 people retweet or repost my posting. So the shadow banning is illegal. It is provable, and it's time for Trump's Justice Department to act.
Now, do you think Whitaker is really Trump's guy, and is he going to do stuff for Trump like this?
Well, I don't know what he is going to do. I had a guest, Tana Gertz, who was the co-chairman of Donald Trump's campaign in Iowa, on my program when I sat in for Alex Jones last Wednesday, and she knows Whitaker personally, and she says he is a man of great courage. He's a conservative of great thought and great study, that he's being caricatured as some kind of a political hack, when in fact he is a very solid legal mind, an excellent attorney, and he just happens to be a true believing conservative. You see, if you're a conservative, you're not allowed to have views. Only liberals are allowed to have views and say, work for Robert Mueller.
Well, now, Roger, let's just get down to it. What is the left trying to accomplish right now? They're obviously censoring us. They're obviously doing a whole lot of damage to the country. So I think it's time for all of us to just look at this and say, why are these communists allying with the radical Islam element in the Middle East? And why are these people like George Soros, who are so wealthy, talking about socialism, and you've got Antifa out there thinking that they're fighting for socialism, but what are they really fighting for? Is it a one-world government?
Well, first of all, they're fighting to overturn the results of the last election. You see, they found the election of Donald Trump incredible and most improbable. They did not see the populist wave of Americans who were tired of the two-party duopoly and the way the neocons have driven this country into the ground. And the American people finally woke up and figured out that the policies of the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas are essentially identical. There may be some small nuances in tax policy, But by and large, they gave us endless foreign war, erosion of our civil liberties, massive international trade deals that sucked the jobs out of America, open borders where we didn't even enforce the immigration laws that we do have, a stagnant economy where kids graduate from college and have to move back in with their parents because there are no jobs. And they wanted something different. Along comes this brave, courageous brawler from New York, Donald Trump. I don't argue that he is a brilliant orator, but I do argue that he's a brilliant communicator. And I also argue that he has core convictions that have, in fact, turned around this economy in spectacular fashion. So with the Democrats announcing 85 new investigations into Donald Trump, since we know the Justice Department under Clinton and under Nixon ruled that a sitting president cannot be indicted for a crime, the purpose of those investigations can only be impeachment. This is the word the Democrats don't want to whisper too loud because the polls show that today it is not a popular concept. But that is their goal, make no mistake about it. And as I have written, if no Russian collusion is found, there won't be, then they will take the 19 women who accused Donald Trump falsely of sexual harassment during the 2016 campaign, and they will parade them before the U.S. Senate. They will get a vote of impeachment in the House because they have a Democratic majority. They will parade them through the Senate in a show trial. The women will have no evidence, no proof, no corroboration. In some cases, they won't remember what year it was or what state it happened in or where they were when it happened, but they'll be positive it did happen. And then we'll see whether weak-kneed Republicans feel the need to join with Democrats and remove the greatest president since Andrew Jackson.
Wow. Unbelievable. He is the greatest president since Andrew Jackson, and make no mistake, Mike Pence is not a good successor to him. How do we keep this Trump movement going into 2024? Is there going to be somebody else who steps up? Because we're not just talking about conservative against liberal, we're talking about an independent who actually wants to change something and fight back against all the corruption that's going on. Is there somebody like that after Trump who can keep this movement going?
I think it's very important to understand that the Trump movement is bigger than the Republican Party. The Trump movement was, in fact, the hostile takeover of the vehicle of the Republican Party. And it's not a secret to those of us who have lived in Washington and worked there that many in the party are working quietly against the president while giving lip service to supporting him. So don't view this as Republicans versus Democrats, Patrick. View it as outsiders versus insiders. Mike Pence is the insider candidate. He would be just fine with Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and so on. And he would be more status quo. I disagree with him on a number of social issues. I'm concerned about his closeness to the pharmaceutical industry. I do not think he is the correct successor for Donald Trump. But I do think Trump has broken the mold. So the days that you had to be a big state governor or a big state U.S. senator to be elected president of the United States are over. A businessman who is articulate or a military figure who is articulate and who can raise the money necessary to communicate can win the Republican nomination. I think it is conceivable that Mr. Pence gets to play the role of Gerald Ford in this drama. And as you recall, Ronald Reagan came this close to defeating Mr. Ford, who then, of course, went on to lose the general election.
Right. Last question, Roger. You know him very well. What is going through the president's head right now?
Well, I think he's very, very bullish on the economy. I think he is very happy that he has proven to the world that, yes, you can just wave a magic wand and change things if waving the wand means cutting taxes and cutting regulation. You have 4.2 million new jobs. You have wage growth at the fastest pace in American history. Despite the manipulations in the stock market by those who would like to stop the Trump recovery, we've had a record stock market. There will be market corrections and fluctuations, but we're still better off than we were under Barack Obama. We have Hispanic and African-American unemployment at the lowest point since those statistics were being kept. Now, there's so much more to do. I would like to see the president bring our troops home from Syria, bring our troops home from Afghanistan, bring our troops home from Iraq. I'd like to see him take marijuana off the class 1 classification by the DEA and pass legislation that supports the states' rights, protects the states' rights to make their own decisions when it comes to medicinal marijuana. I know many, many veterans find it more beneficial than opioids.
Yep. Roger Stone, you are an American original. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's only one of me, that is for sure. I would ask your listeners to go to stonedefensefund.com, stonedefensefund.com. You can go online, Patrick, and you'll see a story that says Roger Stone is worth $20 million in your dreams. This threatens to bankrupt my family. My legal expenses are not insignificant, but that's part of the tactic. You see, they want to make you broke so that you have no choice, like General Flynn, but to plead guilty to something you didn't really do. I'm committed not to do that, but I need the help of patriots. I need folks to have my back. Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Thank you, Roger.